Hello, and welcome to another episode of the God Theory Podcast. This is episode 20. What's up, David? What's going on? Andrew with some
Greetings, fellow
tranquility.
traveler.
Traveler on this space rock. Dude,
On the road to enlightenment.
this is what I'm afraid is going to take over whenever like religion kind of kicks the bucket, is the spiritualism bullshit. Because apparently, like in the more like...
I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual.
I know, man. Have you seen that that YouTube video of the guy who he's got long like reddish blondish hair and he makes fun of spiritual stuff?
No.
I'll send it to you after the link. I'll put it on the God Theory podcast so you guys can see it. It's hilarious. Like he looks like a hippie too. So like he puts a little hippie thing. He's like, whenever you want to be a spiritual person, it's very important to let everyone know as immediately as possible, along with any dietary restrictions you might have, especially if it's not an eating situation.
I've seen him do the gluten, how to be gluten free.
Yeah, he did that one too.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. And anyway, apparently it's like a big deal. He said that it bugs him. He lives I think it was in California. If not, it's the West Coast somewhere. But he said like, there's this weird spiritual movement there. It's like the anti-vaxxers. It's crazy.
Oh, speaking of spirituality, at my school in the rhetoric class, they'll have people come in from every religion that they can find a representative from to kind of talk about their religious worldviews. And at the end, there's like a big panel where they all kind of debate each other. And it's just supposed to be to expose the students to like different world religions and just kind of what they think and give them a chance to ask questions in a safe environment. There's an atheist that goes in there, and there's also a skeptic, like two different kind of non-believers.
Really?
But the last one they see used to be a Wiccan, but now she calls herself an eco-spiritualist. It was fantastic because these are kids that I've taught, right? Like these are kids I've taught how to critically think in my French class. Some of them have taken French for me, and they're sitting there and they're listening to this, and she's going on about, you probably heard of this experiment before, where they have, okay, so this Japanese scientist, he actually did an experiment. His name is Doctor, and she told his name, I forgot what it was, but he takes these jars of water, right? And they're all jars of water. And then he writes words on them and labels each jar. So some of them will say like love or family or peace. And on other jars, he would write Hitler, war, greed, negative words. And this just goes to show the power that words have, like the power these vibrations have. Because and anytime someone says the word vibrations, like I'm instantly like, what? But yeah, because 9 times out of 10, they don't know what they're talking about. So she's like, when he froze them, he came back later and he examined the crystals of the ice that formed in these jars. And the crystals that were formed under like the Hitler jar and the war jar, they were all brown and corrupted and just looked really bad. And the crystals that formed, the ice crystals of the other one, were just fine under a microscope. So there really is something to this positive energy and negative energy. And I was just observing the class. It was an off period for me. So I was just watching it because I'm interested in seeing what the kids are being exposed to. And so I'm watching, and one of my old French students raises his hand and says, where is this study? And she's like, what? He's like, this study. And she's like, oh, I don't know, but you can replicate it. He's like, so if I do that right now, like tonight, that's what would happen? And she's like, well, find out for yourself. And he's like, okay, I will.
Nice. Yes. Use that critical thinking.
Yes. Question bullshit, please.
It's just, yeah, man, there's 2 ways to examine those kind of things, at least in science, is there has to be a theoretical mechanism and there has to be a demonstrable mechanism, right? Like or a demonstrable result. And then you can kind of make an inference. And so I always ask, like, if let's say you do see the demonstrable result, let's say there really was crud under there, then you're like, and you're asserting that that's what? Because that doesn't mean you're right. It just means we saw something weird. And then you're like, and you're asserting what now? The discussion section is the point where you've got to convince me. It's like,
right.
So what does this mean? And then you're like, well,
so glad you asked.
Kind of shoot
that was
out.
The other one is she had one about like talking to your plants, and she's like, if you talk to your plants and you say nice things to them, they grow better. And if you don't say nice things to them, if you neglect them, then you don't. And then hand shoots up. Could it just be that maybe just the carbon monoxide or dioxide from your mouth is helping them when you're talking to them? She's like, well, that's an interesting question, because these were in the same conditions. They're both in the windowsill. And another hand shoots up. It's like, what if we did an experiment where we had one recording of somebody talking and the other one was you talking in person, and we had a control group where no one got talked to, and they started designing the scientific experiment to like undermine bullshit right in front of her, and she lost control of the conversation as the students started like thinking of ways they could test this claim. I was so proud. the future is in good hands.
That's awesome. That's what I want to hear of. More scientific thinking. And you know, there's a lot of people pushing for this. I don't know if you saw the Camp Google. Did you see Camp Google? Google Camp, I mean. Shit's awesome. I showed my kids that because they explore something cool. Like, you know, like the underwater one was kind of boring, but I'll use that one as an example. They why did I just do that? But
super boring. Listen up, listeners.
Yeah.
You're gonna love it.
The format.
Probably not gonna like it, actually. It's pretty
the format was well done. It basically, like, showed them the ocean, you know, and they were looking for interesting shit. And unfortunately, they found none. But you know, they explore something, they cause questions, right? And she kind of talks about it while she's going, and then you do an experiment based on, you know, some of those questions. And anyway, I like that because that teaches them how to be awed by something, and then you test
things,
right? Yeah, which is with science. I mean, like, you find something you're interested in, and then you go, oh, man, how do I determine what's going on there? And then you go, but how do I really determine? So you start, you know, tightening things down, taking your bias, making sure your bias is out of it, so you're double blind or whatever you need to do. That's awesome.
I've put myself in the habit of that when I'm talking to children or students. They'll make a claim, and I'll say, that's interesting. How do we test that? And just kind of get them going down that path, because I just want them to second nature start going, okay, how would we know if that's true or not, instead of just saying things. Like we talked about the other day how even if someone just says, yeah, I've heard that too, or yeah, I agree with that, like, you feel more certain in what you just said, even if that person didn't add any new evidence to this discussion.
Which is hilarious because it's just all that psychological effect. It's an effect we have where, like, let's say I come to you and I'm like, hey, David, I was thinking about these, we won't use something as silly as crystals, but I was thinking that kale shakes I've been drinking in the morning, that they're really helping. And you're like, why? And I'm like, well, you know, because I drink them and then I go to a CrossFit and I feel like I do better. And you're like, oh, I could see why that would be true. I don't know anything about that, but I see why that's true. And the funny thing is, we become more sure that we're right when people don't know. That doesn't make any sense.
Right. All I say is like, yeah, that sounds right, but I'm not bringing any new evidence. I'm not citing you any study. I don't have a nutritionist background. I've got no education. I just say, yeah, that seems right to me. And then you walk away from that phone call more certain in your position than you were before because you ran it by me and my lack of any kind of credibility said, yes, that does sound good.
Yeah, and the only reason why you're giving me that judgment is because you had never thought about it before. Yeah. So, like, if you're like, I went up to 16 people. First, I went to one person who didn't know anything about it. I said it to him. And then I went up to 16 people that didn't know anything about it. They also didn't know anything about it. So now I'm super sure. Like, it's just weird. But anyway,
if you know what's happening, it still happens on some level. You're still like, okay, I'm a little bit more confirmed. It's that tribal kind of social species instinct where we're like, I'd rather be wrong with the group than right by myself.
Yeah, and exactly, and confirmation bias, right? Like, we assume that it would be disproved if it's going to be disproved. Like, and the same thing, like, we look for positive answers, or we look for positive evidence for what we're doing rather than negative evidence, and we're not very good at finding negative evidence.
Right, and that's probably, I'm going to make a prediction here. I don't know if this has actually been proven or not, but missionary work, proselytizing, Mormon, evangelical, whatever, they tend to be wildly successful in what kinds of countries?
Impoverished? Is that what you mean?
Impoverished, but also countries where the majority of people are already religious. They do not have a lot of success in countries like France or Belgium or Sweden, where the religion is kind of passé, kind of in the past. So it's almost like you walk up to someone and like, hey, have you heard of this Jesus fella? And they're like, no, I don't really care about that. Or have you heard of this Jesus fella? Yeah, I've heard about him. Everyone's talking about him. Like, you're more receptive to it just because the majority of the people in your area are all about that.
Yeah, and they already have that magical mindset that, like, that the answer to any question can be, I don't know, magic. Like, that's weird. a good society typically, or at least an advanced society, is like.
But how could Noah's Ark actually work? What are the mechanics of getting a koala all the way there? I don't know, magic. Well, fair enough. Next question.
Yeah, and you're like, well, that magic is sometimes the answer.
Yeah, so it's just weird. God uses magic. We see it in the book.
I love how whenever we talk about, like, we characterize these people, we often use the Mississippi type accent. That's
how almost like a lot of Christians live in Mississippi.
It's almost like that.
What are you know off the top of your head what the demographics are religiously in Mississippi?
No, but I think we're the top most religious, if I remember right. Which is weird. I mean, it's not weird, but
you're also top of porn usage, aren't you? Next to Utah.
Yeah, and the most looked up thing here is anal. I don't know why.
That's sodomy, but it's heterosexual, so it's fine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know.
Have you seen that Garfunkel and Oates? I think that's who they are. The video where they're talking about how anal is like the one kind of sex God can't see. It's the loophole into chastity.
No.
So it's a music
What?
video about like it's called "Fuck Me in the Ass Because I Love Jesus." The good Lord
Oh
would
yeah.
have it that way. Give me the sweet sensation of a throbbing rationalization. It just goes through all these. Basically, God can't see it because it's in the back door.
It's like the you remember we talked about Mormonism last time. It's soaking. Did you mention that?
Yes,
Yeah.
because
And,
God
and
is like a Tyrannosaurus Rex, and he can only.
yeah, yeah. I saw a comic about that. Yeah. And like the
Okay,
people were staying still.
here, yeah, Mississippi's the most religious, and Utah's number 2. 61% of Mississippians are very religious, and 29% are moderately religious. Only 10% identify as non-religious.
Wow, that's a big moderate. Oh, we've got Ole Miss here. It's a college, so
Yeah,
it's gotta be
Utah,
it.
it's 60% very religious, 14% moderate, and 26% non-religious, which is a sizable minority. A quarter
Yeah,
of people in Utah are basically like ex-Mormons who are sick of the bullshit and just left
I
religion entirely.
I just rarely see people that don't. Maybe that's the thing though. It's like the pluralistic ignorance. You know, that's that psychological concept where
Mhm.
you just assume that everyone else um, is the same. Well, no, it's not exactly pluralistic ignorance, but basically, it's you assume other people think like you, and you assume that if you see something walks like a duck, talks like a duck, you assume it's a duck. It's the same way I
Right.
could pass like in here, like whenever I do therapy or something. If someone's like, well, yeah, but I mean, they want me to stop going to church, and I'm like, and that's troubling because God would want you to go. And they're like, yeah, and then they just assume that I'm a Christian because of that, and it's not the case.
Yeah, we just assume everyone thinks as we do. It's interesting though. Some people in Mormonism in Utah will actually just leave for a different flavor of Christianity. I saw a fun comic the other day. It was like a guy in a tiny bird cage, and the bird cage is open, and he's running around saying like, "I'm free," and he's in like a much bigger bird cage. And it's like, what happens when you leave the church but stay in Christianity?
Yeah, yeah,
Like it's not as fundamental, but you're still kind of in a cage, buddy.
yeah. Oh man! But speaking of citations, one of the things that um, bugs me is when it's something you can't really get away with anymore. So there's a certain kind of person that will just actually I don't know if this is exactly true, but in my experience, there's a certain kind of person and people that can just that expect to be able to just say shit on the internet and just get away with it.
To me, it's people who didn't grow up with the internet, like the older generation, where they're just like, "Why would you question this? I said it, and it's on the internet now, like on your Facebook feed."
And where you've constantly your whole life talked into an echo chamber, because
Right.
if you talk to anyone who's critical of your position, they're gonna be like, where did you get that number, or why do you think that way? Because they're gonna
needed, question mark.
yeah. And I think it's older people, and then people that may not be used to speaking to people of opposite who are opposing
the
views.
free market of ideas.
Yeah, so in both of those are very alarming. I do not like echo chambers at all, and I do not like the fact that people have been. Well, I guess it's an echo chamber in real life. People have been talking to people that don't.
Right.
But
that's why we started a podcast where we interview other atheists.
yeah, exactly. No, this is sanity. I'm currently in a Facebook debate actually about Bernie Sanders. So. Which is the topic. Bernie Sanders, man. So what do you know about Bernie Sanders?
All right. I haven't been following politics very well, but it's hard not to know who Bernie Sanders is and be on the internet because the internet freaking loves Bernie Sanders.
They do so much.
So in my little bit of research on him, I found out that not only is he an independent from Vermont senator, self-identified socialist, but what's interesting to me is he is not a Bible kind of guy, which is if you're running for president, the implication is you can't be an atheist, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he is actually disassociates himself from religion all the time. He identifies as Jewish because of his culture, because of his heritage, like he inherited his Jewishness, but he acknowledged that he's not a religious person. And in fact, he scored a solid 0 on the Ralph Reed's Faith and Freedom Coalition in its most recent scorecard, from 0 to 100 about how religious candidates are. He got a 0 out of 100 from the abortion rights group. Oh, sorry. He got a 0 from the Freedom Coalition, which is a right-wing kind of scorecard thing where they grade people. And he got 100 from the abortion rights group NARAL, which is Pro-Choice America. So he he hasn't openly said he's an atheist, but he's Jewish the way Jon Stewart's Jewish. You know, like I grew up in New York in a Jewish neighborhood in Brooklyn, but as far as believing in magical god people, he seems like he probably doesn't. If I was gonna put some money down, I'd say he's probably very agnostic.
Yeah, and I'm such a fanboy of Bernie Sanders, dude. I am, like, to the point where I get belligerent if you talk against him, which I don't necessarily value as a personality trait in myself, but I do. Like, I love this guy. The first time I was introduced to him was and he's relevant right now, but we'll get to that in a second. But first time I was introduced to him was on the internet and Reddit. Someone was like, "Hey, this guy is this guy needs more attention," or something like that. And it was like, you know, he's against big businesses and money running the country rather than the people. And I was like, we'll just see, because I have my skeptical glasses on anytime I see something on the internet. But I click it, and it goes through all of his speeches throughout all the years since, you know, he's the longest running independent in the Congress, and so he's been in a long time. And yeah, just over all these years, he's saying kind of these things about, you know, hey, we got to get the businesses, get their claws out of government, right? Like, this doesn't need to be done. And I was like, that's a win for all stances. Let's say you're a Democrat and you look at that and you're like, yeah, we want the people to run the country. Like, you know, we're the party that typically looks after the little guy, or historically has, more than the other one. And Republican, if you're a Republican, then you might look at that and think like, oh yeah, I mean, small business, right? Don't they the whole
Small
point
government.
of, yeah, small government, and let the people do what they want to do. Well,
Yes, unless it's birth control, then no.
Yeah, get the fuck out of there. But yeah, so you'd think this is a win-win. So I post this on Facebook, and the weirdest thing happened. A lot of my Democrat friends come up and they're like, yeah, and I'm like, yeah, and then like all of my conservative family was like, they freaked out. They're like, well, this guy's fucking crazy. We're gonna try that shit, and I'm like, yeah.
My favorite comment was, he's gonna behead and dismember 40% of all babies, or something.
Yeah, that was like, what?
That's a really oddly specific presidential platform. Like, if I win, 40% of all American babies will have tiny guillotines inserted into the uterus, and they will be beheaded and dismembered.
Oh my god! I know, it's this specific kind of crazy that has been slowly falling away on the internet for the most part, because you're exposed to new ideas. It's kind of like traveling.
People call you when you're wrong. They call you out on it.
You say crazy shit. Yeah. Like anyway, it's insane. But as far as I can tell, this guy, he's an independent, but he calls himself a democratic socialist, which I think is interesting, considering that's a buzzword in America that you don't really want to put yourself under.
I know, he certainly doesn't give a fuck. It's funny when you look at the two kind of ringers that each party has, because on the right they have Donald Trump, who the Republican powers that be do not like this guy. Like, they want him to shut the fuck up. But he's just got so much money, he can walk into a debate and say like, yeah, of course I can buy my way in. I paid for you. He's like pointing people out, like how much money he's giving them. I gave you $200 million. I give you. So like, you've got that guy who's like their renegade. And then you've got on the left, you've got Bernie Sanders, who is basically the Antichrist version of the Christ figure of Trump. He's like the bizarro Trump, where he's the left. The Democrats don't like him either, because he's so not part of the inside group. Like, they want Hillary Clinton to win. Obviously, he's going to be pushing behind her. And so my dream, Jeremiah, is to have Trump win the Republican nomination somehow. Yeah. And Bernie Sanders to somehow win the Democratic nomination, and just have those two debate. It would be such a fuck. Like, what would happen? They just start punching each other because they're so opposites. Like, if they touch, like, the world would just unravel. Like, it would be like reality. It would create like antimatter. Like, Trump's favorite book is the Bible. He's going up against like the Reformed Jew.
and Bernie Sanders' favorite book is like the Communist Manifesto. That's not true. But the Socialistic Manifesto. Like, he ran that when he was a student. He opened it for equality. Oh my God, yeah, it is, because Donald Trump is like, every immigrant you meet will rape you. And
I'm not saying they all will. There might be some that won't. I'll allow for that. But pretty much all of them are rapists.
Well, that's very gracious of you, Mr. Trump. But Mr. By the way, you're not a congressman or anything. But then you get Bernie Sanders, who when he was a student, when he was an undergraduate, he was a campus organizer for Citizens of Equality or something, but it was about, and this was a long time ago when that shit would get
deal. This is like pre-civil rights or like during the civil rights movement, because Bernie
was
Sanders
huge.
is old as fuck.
Yeah,
Let's just put it on the table.
he's seen some shit, and he doesn't give a fucking. But neither of them. Okay, so this is the crazy thing. I don't like. I'm gonna put it out there. I don't like Hillary Clinton because she's a politician, and has nothing to do with her stance on many things. I don't give. I haven't followed politics. I
have an initial pushback against her just because I'm tired of dynasties. It seems un-American to have a Clinton Bush kind of thing going on.
Yeah, and even Barbara Bush said that. She's like, I don't want Jed. or George to win because there's apparently another brother named George. Anyway, no, Jed to win after George did.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, that's what I meant. Sorry. But
yeah, I heard some guy named George Bush. Apparently, Jed has a brother named George. I don't know. I haven't been following politics long, but apparently Jed has a brother named George somewhere down the line.
It's irrelevant. The point is, she doesn't want one of her sons to win the presidency. That's the important part. Now,
apparently he has a brother named George.
Hillary's just shady as shit. She's done a lot of bad things, which is fine. You know, politicians do.
But it's lesser of two evil, devil that you know elections where you're like, well, this guy seems shady, but this other guy's a raving madman, and our two-party system has given us those two options.
Yeah.
Like, if it comes down to like Huckabee or Clinton, I'm gonna be like, okay, I guess Clinton then. She's not as obviously crazy as Huckabee is. It's
the same thing about like Mitt Romney, for example. That guy is like polished as shit, right? It's just a polished turd, and so is Hillary. Like, she's got things she wants to get done with the presidency, but we will never hear them until she gets office, and that bugs me. Like, they shouldn't be able to. Yeah, they shouldn't be able to be so blatantly dismissive of us wanting to know about their things. That's why I like Trump, and not anything about him, not his hair, not his stance on things, nothing. But I love the fact that he does not. This guy, yeah, his Twitter is a fucking shitstorm. Anyway,
people who don't know how to use the internet.
The fact that he gives zero fucks. I love that, and that's why I like Bernie Sanders, because he gives zero fucks, but he's on
they're the same
right side,
but on completely opposite ends of the spectrum.
Because they would say shit like Donald Trump. They really are holy shit. Because Donald Trump he's like, hell yeah, there's corruption. I love corruption. I corrupted you. I corrupted you. I corrupted you. And then Bernie Sanders is like, corruption's a big deal. We can't have any more corruption.
I know. He's like, I'm going to make it so we can't even have corporations donate money to politicians anymore. And Trump, meanwhile, is just like making it rain at the GOP presidentials. 100 million for you, 200 million for you.
And he just talks about it like, yeah, I love seeing like unfiltered politics, and I think this is one of these once in a lifetime things we won't be able to see much anymore, because I don't think there's going to be more candidates like this.
And it'd be fun to see millennials actually come out and vote this. Like if Sanders gets the nomination by some miracle, like it's clear the popular vote is with him right now, at least on the internet. Yeah. If somehow that translates, and our system is so shitty because we don't get any choice in who we can vote on the two main players, but we don't get any voice on who those two main players are if you don't live in like the ones that get the primaries first. Like, what are they? Vermont and like random Iowa or something, the Iowa caucus. Like, basically, like these tiny non-representative populations are deciding who gets the nomination, and then we get to choose between them. But if somehow Sanders makes it through that obstacle and gets past the gates that are holding out the people the party doesn't want, I will vote. I will vote in an election. I will actually pretend that it matters, and I will vote.
Yeah,
I think a lot of millennials will have the same opinion. Like, they're just so jaded with politics right now that it's on the one hand, it's like, is it hope and change all over again? But on the other hand, he didn't come out of nowhere like Obama did. This guy's been at it since the 80s and the 70s, just like talking about these same talking points.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not the product. That's the thing. Like, Obama was on okay, so Bernie Sanders just got Obama's like campaign guy, like their main campaign guy. They just bought him. But before that, like that just happened like a week ago. But before that, it was pure. He didn't have a campaign guy. This guy came out of nowhere. And the thing is he wasn't winning because he had a brilliant strategy like Obama did. When you've got a president that has like, what, 13% approval rating? I mean, all you got to do is be like anything but, which was his thing. Like,
yeah, that's how he won his Nobel Peace Prize. He's like, I'm not Bush.
Yeah.
And the world community was like, Jeb or George? He's like, either one. And they're like, all right, here's a Nobel Peace Prize. Like, it's
Wait,
pretty
there's a George?
Yeah, I don't know. There were a couple Georgians, I guess. I started following politics literally 12 minutes
this morning.
ago.
Yeah. No. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah. The thing, there's a lot of moving parts with Bernie Sanders. This is that I like so much. And I'm not trying to push him on anyone. Yes, I am actually. Yeah, I really am. But if you don't, that's fine. I'm not one of these guys who gets upset about politics unless you're a Republican. But
I will ask you to unsubscribe and remove yourself from my friend list.
No, there's a lot of moving parts. One is the power of the internet, and part of the same point, the complete dismissal of the Vox Populi. Remember we had that episode of the Vox Populi, like the internet, Twitter. You've got like podcasts. The free radio. Now
it's like seeing the Gracchus brothers riding in and saying, "All right, plebes, you've got someone speaking for you now." And you're like, "What? The internet has a voice?" It's like the internet manifested itself as a politician.
Yeah, Bernie Sanders. It reanimated the old bones. Bernie's dead. Yeah, he's just like
dead since like the mid '80s.
He's running off of Facebook and Twitter. But since the beginning, they were like, "Oh, we don't have to do anything crazy." I keep reading Hillary's her camp's responses to things and her responses. And when he first came out, it was just like this shitty little dude. They did a viral analysis. I'll talk about that in just a second. But she came out of nowhere, and they're like, "Oh, it doesn't matter. He's never going to get enough money to actually campaign." Then he starts getting money, and it's like, "Yeah, but they're like, it's a Kickstarter. It's not a big deal. It's no big deal." And then he starts getting millions of dollars, and they're like, or hundreds of thousands of dollars. And at that point, they're like, "Okay, great. Yeah, what's he going to win though?" And then he wins. Was it New Hampshire? He's favored to win New Hampshire, if I'm right, or Iowa, one of these deciding states. And she's like, yeah, but he's not going to win anything else, and he probably won't. Like, I'm still discounting him. I'm not an idiot. I hope he wins, and I will do everything I can to push. But I wouldn't be surprised if Hillary Clinton won. I just want to see him win. But the article that went the most viral of Hillary's was an apology. I don't know. You probably saw it because I saw it like 6 different places. It's like, hey, Hillary's not great. Everybody knows that. But who else are you gonna vote for? That's like the thing.
I know. It's like her campaign slogan should be because fuck you. There's no other choice.
Yeah, yeah. That's why she didn't run against in the last election. She's like, no, I need a clear runway. Everybody knows it. The opinion rating for her is just really low. And so, anyway, there's just.
And he's still another. Despite the internet rooting for Bernie Sanders, like she's currently the most recent poll I saw, she's at 53.7% approval. Sanders is at 18.2, and he's like the next highest for the Democrats.
Yeah.
From the Huffington Post.
But if he can get invited to some of these discussions and stuff, and I think, like you said, if we can get the people who have traditionally not been voting, the millennials and the younger people, it's usually older, rich people, then we can have a real thing here. And I think that it could happen. Like if somebody puts this, whoever's good at this emotional appeal stuff, like on the internet, when people put up these like videos and it's like, are you upset with literally everything? Just show a picture of like a kitten getting punched, and then it's like, does that piss you off? Bernie Sanders would never let that happen. I don't know how to.
I love those political hate ads too. The was it Crack Dog? No, the Nerdist podcast. They were joking about that, and they were like, can you imagine like those hate political campaign ads in the 1700s, like George Washington says he wants to become president, but what is a president anyway?
That's awesome. Yeah, the smear campaigns. I mean, I think the landscape, the internet's changed everything, and I think the landscape of people being like, for example, advertising can no longer be like it used to be, where it's like, hey, smoke some cigarettes because doctors love them. Like, you can't do that.
9 out of 10 doctors recommend Lucky Strikes.
Yeah, you won't see that shit anymore because people can just be like, do they really? Click, 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 click. And so I think that the landscape's changing, and right now the people, the top dogs in marketing and everything else, or not marketing, but marketing for politicians, don't seem to understand that aspect. They haven't quite clicked. You don't get like you get like Obama started getting it. He started showing up on like these, the plebeian things like the Tonight Show.
Like, he was even on Between Two Ferns with Zach Galifianakis.
Yeah, and then he did that.
It's like a total internet show.
Yeah, and every time it was just to plug his Affordable Care Act. He's like, but seriously, young people need to go and sign up for this because that's how insurance can last. It's because the healthy people are paying the burden. It's like a backwards tax. But anyway, Yeah, Bernie Sanders. Oh, so there's a lot of moving parts, and one of those is just that the internet is going to might be a big deal in politics from now on. You know, the people have a way to speak equally about everything they didn't
Yeah.
have previously.
It's doing to politics what it did to religion, and that's shining the light on things that people don't want you talking about.
I know, and if there's anything the internet loves, it's a good conspiracy. And Bernie Sanders is offing that by being like, hey, he just pinned, I don't know if you saw this, but he pinned a letter of the top 18 CEOs that aren't paying taxes. Have you heard about that?
No.
Oh man, he just put it out like about a week ago, I think. And he's calling him out. He was like Bank of America CEO, for example, didn't pay. He said owed $2.8 billion. And, you know, he's got all of it. It's in a huge document if you want to read all the numbers. I hate tax law, but it's there. And then he goes, paid zero. How much did he get in a refund, a tax refund? It was like 5.8 billion or whatever. And they said, how much did he get for a bailout because of Bank of America? And it was like $3.9 trillion or whatever. And, you know, these are people who are getting clear benefits from the government and are not paying back. And so he just wrote a letter and just like put it out there and just published it on the internet, and it went viral because that's what the internet does. And I just love it. I love it. Everything about it. Even if it wasn't just Bernie Sanders, I just love the concept of what's going on right now. You got
so why is he pissing off your religious family members? What about him is so anti-religious besides the fact that he classifies himself as not very religious?
Well, but it's before that. Like they don't like him right away. It's weird because, like, for example, one of the people was like, oh, he's a typical Democrat. And I was like, he's not a Democrat. He's an independent. It says you can literally just type in Bernie Sanders and Google will even fill it in for you. You don't even have to hit enter. And it says right there, independent, longest running independent in Congress. I don't know how you fucked that up. He's running against Democrats now.
He's going on for the Democratic ticket, but he's been an independent since he started.
Yeah. So no. And yeah, I don't, what I think it is I think it's fear mongering. I think it's just everybody, a simple mind likes to see things, and this is a little insulting, I know, but people, we're cognitive misers. We like to be lazy, and I think
we look for shortcuts.
Yeah, and so the easiest shortcut is black and white. And so you go, wait a minute, is he a Democrat or a Republican? And you're like, well, it's more nuanced than that. And then it's like, so Democrat? Yeah.
Is it us or is it them?
Let's talk about, I mean, does he want to dismember babies and take off their heads? And you're like, yeah.
It's tribalism again, right? Like we evolved a suspicion of the other, and it's never going to go away. So it just kind of goes down to fear-mongering tribalism. Just, he doesn't have an R next to his name. Don't like him. Don't trust him. He's not one of us. Yeah,
us versus them mentality is like so seductive. I mean, we do it too on the non-believer side all the time, you know, because you're just like, oh, well, he's got a Christian dad, and they're like, oh, okay. Yeah, and he could be one of these moderate Christians who actually voted for gay rights, you know.
Right.
So we
can't make assumptions based on probabilities.
And there's an interesting, this is really interesting. People like there's a lot of studies that have been done about like how Republicans vote or how religious people vote and that kind of thing. But there's not a lot about how or like why atheists vote, like this conjecture. So for example, we like simplifying things and making it sound like the opponents are, I'm already using us versus them just by saying opponents, but by the religious right, that they're run by simple mechanisms, you know. But we don't like that about ourselves, because what led you to vote, you know, Democratic, or what led you to become an atheist? We give this narrative, right? Like, oh, my superior logic and reasoning, or whatever. But what if it was just environmental variables too? I mean, I'm a behaviorist, so it kind of has to be. You know what I mean? We don't like it if someone was like, well, it's because 5 out of his 6 friends are Democratic, and that's why he became a Democrat. You know what I mean? Or that's why he became atheist. You don't want. We don't want to think of ourselves
like that. Like, but we're just products of our environment too. Oh shit.
Yeah, then I can't be morally smug towards the other person.
Oh
shit.
Man, it has very scary implications on free will that I do not want to think about right now.
Yeah, I know. I study this stuff and I don't even like thinking about it. I'm like, ooh, that's very interesting, philosophically. Now, what do I want to choose for dinner? So
yeah. So it's fun. I'd like to see, if nothing else, it would be fun to have a serious presidential candidate who is not religious, who is a nun, one of those rising nun demographics. Because remember what a big deal it was when we had our Catholic president and Romney was going to be like our Mormon candidate, like these minority faith groups. But to have a, not even an atheist, but just someone who doesn't describe himself as religious and says, yeah, I'm not really into that religious thing. I'm a Jew, but I don't really take it seriously. Like having someone like that actually get votes would be a huge cultural shift in our country.
This guy represents a lot of things that I value highly. And this is why I have not been in politics ever, but I just now started getting into them so that I can defend this guy on the internet, which is absolutely backwards of how I should do it. I should have read about all the candidates and then, gone. But I've been so disillusioned with politics that I was like, whatever, it's all spin shit anyway. And, which is curmudgeon-y of me. But he represents a few things. One, shining the light on corruption in politics. I've been saying this for a long time. It doesn't matter how you vote. It does not matter. And so he's willing to do it. And he's crazy enough that he's going to do it. He's actually going to try. I don't know if it's going to work.
Crazy son of a bitch. He's trying. He's doing it.
He's doing it. Which reminds me, in movies, you never hear this. I've got a crazy idea. And then the guy goes, you're right, that's crazy. Let's not do it. That never happens. Yeah. They always go, it's crazy enough to maybe work. And then it does.
It's just crazy enough to work. Wait, what? Why? Is there a level of crazy where it becomes feasible?
Yeah, no, that's true. Oh man,
like how crazy that's. It's crazy, but not crazy enough to work. Like, well, what if we were all wearing leotards? Well, that might just be crazy enough to work.
That does kick it up over the edge. It's crazy.
Like it's crazy. This imaginary line of crazy validity.
Yeah, you're like, that's crazy, but keep it coming.
Keep building on it. It's not crazy enough to work yet, but you're getting close.
Keep working it. Talk about work unicorns in there. Then it'll work. No, but anyway, it's about exposing corruption, which I'm seriously, like police departments are big on the corruption there. I mean, in our military, we wrote faulty reports and, beg about there, and especially in Congress where people need to be represented. That's good. But also it represents a shortcut to the golden land. The golden land for me, and all scientific data shows, is the Nordic countries. They are winning at life.
They're winning at everything.
Cancer, they're importing trash. Importing trash.
They want other people's trash.
Yeah.
They're taking the money that they're being paid for taking the trash, and they're investing it in their country.
Yeah. And one of these countries.
And they're turning that trash into energy.
I know. What? How do you not love this? And then Finland was like, what was it? I can't remember how many years ago. Not that long ago, was completely decimated and ruled by Russia. And then Russia left. They were like, fuck you guys, and left them with nothing. And they came from nothing, from rags to riches, bitches.
Let me ask you this about these Nordic countries, though. How are they on religious freedom?
You can practice however you want.
No.
But most of them are atheists.
No, they don't have freedom.
How so?
Because America's got religious freedom.
Ah, damn it, you're right. Okay, that's a good point. Never mind. Bernie Sanders is evil.
That's kind of how the conversation tends to go, though.
I mean, like, all of politics has been this. Like, I see one issue and I go, oh man, what does the science say? And every time science is like, well, Nordic countries do it the best. And I'm like, damn it, fucking Nordic countries, you're so happy up there. They're happy, less cancer, less.
I know, and they're covered in snow and darkness for most of the year.
Yeah,
like just perpetual darkness. It's fucking Mordor up there. There's this cloud of like you get 3 hours of sunlight, and it's like the darkness comes, and they're still happy. They're beating the odds of their environment. They're like, yeah, you know what, vitamin B, fuck that. You know what, sunlight, fuck that. We're gonna be happy because of how great this place is. They
ride bikes in the snow. They're still happy. It's just crazy. But like anytime I see that and then I look at the data, if there's any relevant data on it, and I'm like, oh damn, those countries do it best. Well, I guess however they do it then is probably good. And it's just, but it's this tiny little incremental walk, like a shuffle in your foot on a marathon. So I'm like, I'll never see it in my lifetime. This guy represents a chance to actually make real strides towards that. I'm just so excited, dude. If he got it, we could buy all of science should be behind this guy if you believe in data at all, and the internet should be behind this guy because if you're on the internet and you're kind of an internet denizen like myself, you spend way too much time on the internet. You should probably be behind him because he's part of all the things that he literally tries to do that too. He'll be like, oh, what are you guys? Oh, you guys big on that? Okay, we can do that. Like the Black Lives Matter thing. Like those people interrupted him. Huh?
Oh, I just had an epiphany.
What?
You were talking about Nordic countries and how they're the best places to live, and I pointed out they're also not very religious. Correlation's not causation. And so guess what I started wondering?
What?
which states are the best places to live? Ranked by employment, crime, homicide, voter turnout, things like that. Things that you would rank quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
And I happened to have who are the most religious states open. And so I looked at the least religious state, and I saw Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine are the least religious states. And I made a prediction. Do you want to guess what that was?
That's the happiest?
Yes. Do you know what the best state to live in is, according to USA Today?
What?
New Hampshire. Number 2, Minnesota. Number 3, Vermont. I bet you Maine's on this list somewhere. Hold on. Yep, number 8 is Maine. They're all in the top 10. The least religious states.
Wow.
Let's see, Massachusetts, it's number 4 on religion, and there it is, number 7. All the least religious states are doing best. All the least religious countries are doing best. I know correlation is not causation, but Jeremiah, there's something happening here.
Yeah. And that's something that I have to actively work against in therapy anyway. Like anytime I try to do conflict resolution at all, or whenever people are anxious or whatever, I'm like, first of all, this isn't my outset. I give them confidentiality thing, like everything you say here is confidential, blah, 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 and you give a couple exceptions. Doesn't matter, but that's part of everything you have to say it. Then I always follow it up with, all right, so my particular brand of therapy is what I call evidence-based therapy. It should be the only therapy out there, but it's stuff that's been shown to work. If I ever stray away from something I don't know will work, I will let you know immediately that I'm not sure, but let's try this. What do you think? And we'll be very collaborative on this. And then I go, and lastly, you're never going to hear me say right and wrong in here. I don't know what's right and wrong. Moral philosophers have been talking about this for years, for centuries. No one knows what's right and wrong, but I do know this, what works and what doesn't. So we'll be talking about things like this works for this, and we'll give a purpose to it. Does that make sense, or do you have any questions? Bam. Like, the right and wrong fucks people up if there's a right and a wrong. And so religion just not only introduces that concept, but it reinforces it repeatedly, at least once a week when you sit down in the pew. So, anyway.
It's not surprising, man.
Yeah. I hear that so many conversations go straight into the toilet because somebody's like, you're just not right on this. Yes, I'm not wrong. Are you saying I'm wrong? No, I'm just saying you're not right. Well, you're not right because of this, and doing that's not right. And I'm like, stop, fucking shit, stop. Why isn't it right? Well, it's just not. What does that mean? For what? Well, it hurts my feelings. Well, say fucking that. It hurts my feelings. Oh, I don't want to hurt your feelings. You're done. Like, that was it. Easy. Fucking right and wrong. Stop. And so anyway, that's my diatribe for the podcast.
Yes, it's absolutely wrong to talk that way for people. Don't do it. It's not right.
I know. Well, it's almost like only to sit dealing in absolutes. It's kind of true, even though it's the one-time exception you'll make will be that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's there are no absolutes. That'd be a good one, and then that's an absolute. But anyway, cool. I think that probably wraps it up. Our listeners probably know more about politics than we do. So, hey, jump on the Facebook page, man. God Theory Podcast. Let us know what's going on. And if there's something dark part of Bernie that I don't know about, some dark taint.
Taint.
It's a double entendre.
It means two things.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Let us know. How will they find us on Facebook?
Oh, yeah. Just go to facebook.com/groups/God Theory Podcast. Actually,
it is a closed group, which means people can see that you're in it, but they can't see what's being posted there unless they're part of the group.
Yeah, I mean, if they click on you and they click what groups you're in, because it's not even on your front page. But
right,
but
they'd have to do some homework. They could, and even then, it's the God Theory Podcast. Who knows what that theory is about?
Yeah. So you'll be safe pretty much, unless they're really snooping, in which case, yeah. If you're afraid of that, yeah. If you're afraid of that, then probably don't join. But our other podcast, we started a Facebook page, and it's my favorite page on the internet, and it's one of my favorite pages, just in general in life I like to go to. So it's a good time. We like to recreate that here because I know we got good people. Well, scientifically, we've got better people, right?
Or at least happier people.
If they're all less religious, yeah. So it'd be good. So I'll see you guys on there. Do you have any closing thoughts, David? Anything? It's got to be super brilliant or don't talk at all. All right, then. Well, we'll see you next week.